enough to change my mind. That's what my faith in science requires of me. It's an interesting difference between the two. It's definitely something you get in debate in these rooms, is they will ask you as if it means the same thing as their faith in God, and it's two completely different things, completely different uses of the word faith. So, but it is interesting, Marshall. I mean, my brother is a pastor, and he's also a minister, and so we've had this conversation. So, and some of what you're saying sounds a little like him. It's like the mystery of it, right? The community of it, the fact how much help it was to him when had some trauma in his life. And he also ties it in with his love of physics, what does he call it? The balance of equations, when equations perfectly, and he thinks that's really sort of like, mystical. But it's definitely an interesting sort of approach. But I guess one thing I would ask is, when you were studying all this other stuff, did you ever study anything else? Like, did you ever study like a history of literature or a history of anything else where you have to apply those tools in a different way?
So I was I majored in Middle Eastern history with a minor in counterterror and sociology. So I took several history courses: history of the Republic of Rome, history of ancient and modern China, history of Nazi Germany. Taught with a guy who lectured in Germany for a couple of decades, as well as hip hop and philosophy.
Mm-hmm. So there is some curiosity about other. Yeah.
No, I'm very curious. If you stick history in front of me, I will consume it. I really don't care what subject in history it actually is. I just like history.
Have you ever read any of the mythicist stuff?
I want to quickly chime in.
Sure. You're muted, Alphonse, so I don't know if you know.
Yeah, I might have been breaking up, but I wanted to quickly comment on this notion that when people say, well, you have faith in science, it's no different. I think foundationally, the human experience is very similar, right? It's never identical. But where the difference lies is that our faith or our trust in sources comes from scientific process, right? It's a process that has been tested. But the way we look at the information, the way we read a scientific text is not that dissimilar to the way a believer reads the Bible. They might say, no, I know it's not a science book, but the authority that they see in it and the truth that they find in it is very similar. So I think from a human experience, we have to be honest that it's pretty much the same. What they're missing is what I was missing when I was a Christian, which was, why should I read any other book? Why should I find any other knowledge if the Word of God itself is here? So I really didn't feel motivated to researching much outside of it. And I would assume that the majority of Christians do that as well.
But the book tells you to do that too, right? I mean, that's part of my problem with it. The book says, faith is belief in things without evidence. With evidence.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally different.
Exactly. But I don't think it's neuropsychologically different.
Okay.
Because the experience they're having within that is, the authority that they see in it is very much akin to the way we are reading it and we're experiencing it, right? We're probably going to have less mystical experiences and moments of awe, right? We're going to be a little bit more analytical and mathematical. But at the end of the day, the way our brain brains work is we've been conditioned to take a certain authority for granted, like blindly almost. And then when we come across someone who believes differently, you can't deprogram the person because it's a linguistic, it's linguistic neural pathways that are like ingrained there, and half of it they won't understand, half of it they won't connect. But at the end of the day, the experience is the same. That's why we can't really agree or convince each other.
It's like, if I can account for people whose minds have been changed, though, like there's lots of people in this room who are saying, I used to be this and now I'm this, you know?
Also, in my example, Frank, like my brother and I, excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, but my brother and I are very different, right? I'm very rational. I'm more logic driven than my brother is. My brother's much more emotional than I am. You know, it's interesting because the science and the religion thing, like science wants to explore and religion wants to obey, is how I started to see it once I hit college. And you know, I think Alfonso is right, you know, when he talks about, you know, the brain. You know, I think it was New York University did this study, and they hooked these people up who considered themselves to be religious, right? Meaning like, not just I believe this, but I actually have religious experiences per se, right? So they hook these people up, they wire up their brains, and what they noticed is that this was a 2-year study they did. So people who claim to have religious experiences, the same parts of the brain lights up as people who claim to have ET or UFO experiences. And they were then able to like stimulate like these parts of the brain, and once they did the stimulation, people claim to have experiences. I think all of this shit is in the human brain.
That's awesome. Yeah. I often say when I'm talking to people is that, you know, we have a very limited sensor package, right? Like everybody on this stage has 2 eyes, you know, they have a heart, they have lungs, you know, nobody in this room can hear into the ultrasonic spectrum, you know, nobody here can see, you know, infrared light, you know, it's like our sensor package is so limited that I think that's why our stories are so similar. Like, I always use the example of you look at a mountain, right? I live near the Alps, and I look up and see these huge mountains, and it's awe-inspiring. I'm going to push back on you, Alfonso. I think we have just as much awe. But I would say that, you know, you look up at a mountain, and your first thought is, well, that would be an achievement, right? Climbing that mountain would be an achievement. And typically, if you have to, you know, navigate in a mountainous area, it is an achievement. And that's a very human thing. And so when we start creating symbols for what our gods look like, we're going to use those same symbols. Mountains, pyramids, temples, you know, all that kind of stuff. Because of our limited sensor package. You know, it's like we're all kind of seeing within a bell curve and experiencing the same things. And just radically different outcomes.
Yeah, no, I agree that we all have, you know, we have a sense of awe. I preach this as an atheist constantly, right? I'm like, how can consciousness emerge out of atoms and molecules and all this? How can the universe and the earth be so huge, and how can my brain entertain the beauty of you know, temperature and sexual attraction and eating food and all these things? I do think, you know, that's a huge thing, and people think, oh, because you're an atheist, you don't experience these things.
Yeah.
but I think one of the foundational differences is a Christian's life, and the more fanatical you are, the more it's about the awe, about the experience, the transcendence, the moment where you're connecting. So I reconnected with Hare Krishna movement here in Bolivia. I used to be a Hare Krishna monk as a child. And I reconnected, and I made a friend.
I remember that about you, yeah.
Yeah. And a good friend, I just made a really good friend who's one of these very hardcore Christians who's convinced it's the end of time, and Donald Trump is the chosen one to lead us into the apocalypse or something. And so And so Friday night there was a program in the Hare Krishna place. This lady was telling the story of Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda, which is a companion. Probably nobody knows what I'm talking about, but it's the appearance of it's a manifestation of Krishna, right? It's one of his. It's like Christ, a little bit like when God came to earth. And the preaching was so similar, right? It was like, and so he knocked on everyone's doors and he asked them to chant Hare Krishna, and he was so forgiven because he was, they cast a stone in his face, and then they broke it, and then he forgave them, and then everybody realized he was the true God, and they kneeled and they apologized. So there's, all these narratives are so similar. So you see that they're focused on the idea, and at the end of the chat of the temple, and they're all like, "Oh, this was so enriching, so wonderful. I felt so nurtured, and it was such a transcendent, mystical experience." Same thing with Christians, and which I think is like Alain de Botton said in his video, Atheism 2.0. That's what we're missing as atheists, right? We don't have a moment where we can create this addiction to truth and wisdom and science, and yell out, "All hail Einstein! All glories to whatever Newton!" And so I think that's that's why I said they're really, really focused on perhaps not being in awe, but having that the experience of being in a group, in a tribe where you're supporting each other, which everybody does in a concert. Will say, like when atheists talk, I'm like, yeah, I still do that. I go to a music concert, or I go to a lecture, or I do this and that, but it's not as similar to going every Sunday, once a week, and even sometimes during the week to a Bible study and spending 20 minutes, half an hour, praying and connecting with yourself and meditating, right? All these things are really important, and we dismiss them as if, it was like, yeah, it's superstition and bullshit. I don't care about it. That's, I think, one of the main differences. The fact that, at least me, I myself, and most of us here are very much about logic and we care about emotions, but there's something foundational in humanity, which is that oxytocin releasing ritual, which makes you addicted to your group. And actually, I don't know if it would be better or worse, because we would probably become more tribal and start hating religious people more. But that's foundationally a difference.
I would just push on one thing, and that is that if you are a creator of something, let's say a musician, you do get that recurring sense of awe, and on an ongoing basis that you wouldn't get from just going to a concert once every couple months, but the performing as a musician also, it's like performing, it's very transcendent. Performing is, but it takes that weekly work also. So I think maybe there is something about whether you're creating it or just experiencing it occasionally that makes the difference too.
Well, yeah, I'm a music theater actor, so I know the experience, and it does a very similar thing. You connect with the people, you perform, emotions, you transmit stuff through music, through dance, so I don't think we're that. One thing that we keep pushing to each other is atheists are this and theists are this, when the overlapping between the different tribes and labels is a lot greater than the differences.
Sometimes.
I think most of the time.
I don't know. I suppose maybe if you choose your audiences carefully, but if I look at the world written large, I'm kind of going with what Daryl says, it's not looking good out there. It's not looking generous towards humanity at the moment. And that is one thing that a lot of people would argue, and I'd be at the front of the line, that I absolutely do not choose my audience carefully. My audience is anybody and every.
Yeah, and I think that's where we meet each other, because I stopped asking people for their labels, for their beliefs, for their politics. And when I engage in a conversation just about our daily lives, our work, our hobbies, all these differences in this, oh, you're an atheist, you're an asshole, or you're a theist, you're a superstitious guy, falls apart. And the world shows that. You go into work, and you might have Muslims and Christians, and they're all in there doing the work, right? Things aren't popping out, and people are like, oh, I'm not gonna serve this service. Well, you might find a few people who say, you know what, my beliefs don't allow me to serve this customer in such fashion, but they're the exception. Most people, London, you see, like, yeah, I'm serving everyone. They scream just to want to take fashion. Because I'm required to scientific data, the more it becomes normative, because we start to describe human behavior, causality, nature, and it very well tells me that first and foremost, why should I punish anyone unless, traditionally, yeah, we need to punish each other or put people away. But the new paradigms are telling us it's all deterministic. A criminal became a criminal, used, or he was raised in a maladaptive environment, what have you. And so you lose all these normative claims that come from traditions of philosophy and politics and religion. And so, I call it, it's neuroscience. Yeah, it's all scientism. Yeah. It's going to allow us to understand the world. Yeah. And therefore, I don't think it's about, being pessimistic or being positive. Optimistic. It's about looking at the way the world is functioning. And yeah, there's days that I'm very pessimistic, but that's due to my brain chemistry that day. Or because I encountered someone who makes me feel that way. And then I say I'm optimistic. What I strive for is to see the empirical evidence and say this is the world, the way the world functions, and hopefully I'll take it back to work towards thriving as a human.
Yeah, I always took science. I always took science as a way to explain things that had previously been thought of as magic, or that one put an article of faith in. That science explains how that works. Right, like I'm a survivor of an autoimmune disease called aplastic anemia. While I'm a Christian and I believe in God and I prayed and all that stuff, the thing that saved me was modern medicine, on the know-how and the scientific data behind that. So I think, for me, that's how I think of science. I'm not I'm not one of those Christians who goes, no, science, bad idea. No, in fact, I think there needs to be more funding for science, not less funding. Granted, I also think there should be more funding for history programs, but I'm biased there.
Yeah, one of the things I say about science and religion is, you could start making a list of religious claims that were overturned by science, and it's a very long list. And you could make a list of things that religion is overturned about science, and there's nothing on the list. And that's an interesting fact, right? It's just, I've never heard of falsification. Well, some Muslims think their book does, but that's a different question. But the question then becomes, why is that? What does that tell you? What does that teach you? And it teaches you that if what you're pursuing is concordance with reality, then science is going to match up better. Science is a better way to get there. That's just the way I see it. Maybe that's an atheist.
This is the approach I take, right? I welcome philosophy and religion and everything into the science of they're incredibly imprecise. I'm going to bring you back up for a moment. They're incredibly imprecise because they have tested the world. They've for example, for generations, someone started taking their neighbor's property, sleeping with their neighbor's wives, and that created conflict and murder and what have you. So they came up with a law that said, do not covet thy neighbor's possessions, right? And then they said, do not worship another god before me. Well, what does that entail? Do not, fraternize with other tribes. Don't believe in the bullshit they believe in, right? So I think the main difference is science brings us precision, right? It's no longer philosophy and religion. They're all telling us how the world works. They're falling aside to traditions and rituals, and science is taking preponderance, whether we want it or not. It's taking absolute preponderance in our lives, and these other practices, they're trying to incorporate science to find scientific or pseudoscientific arguments, but again, the baseline experience is very similar, and that's where the big difference lies. But it is, let's say, a pseudo-scientific experience, what all humans are going through, because it works. Things work even when they're lies, right? If you're in a church, you'll be like, yeah, I prayed so I felt the Spirit of God. It's not true that the presence of God was there, but it's a collective thing that keeps them together, and according to them, it has an outcome that they come together, whatever it is, right?
Why does it never stand up to let's just take what you said, prayer. We know that prayer fails empirically 100% of the time, and in any sort of true study of it, I'm not talking about an individual anecdotal thing, but any true study of prayer has demonstrated that it has zero outcome impact, and that's interesting to me. That something that is that easily disputed and debunked still maintains so much power.
I think the explanation is... Yeah, go on.
I don't know. It's that talking about sort of just meditating, right? We sort of have explanations for that. Sort of, group experience. I did Quaker meeting for years, just because I love the silence, and all that stuff. But I'm talking about actual intercessionary prayer. It's
the experiments they did where they prayed for. Dawkins talks about that in his book, The God Delusion.
Yeah.
How they pray for this group, and then they have a control group where they don't pray for the group, and in one, so two groups are prayed for, one isn't. One of the groups that are prayed for is told they're being prayed for, and the other one isn't told. And yeah, like you said, there's no evidence of anything happening, except that the people who knew they were being prayed for apparently did worse.
Yeah.
The assumption is that the idea that you're told that you're being prayed for is because you're probably in bad shape. You get scared.
Or you can just, maybe keep smoking cigarettes because you're being prayed for.
Yeah, but it's not, again, it's not logic, or at least the foundations, the axioms on which logic are predicated, that rule over whether something is believed to be true.
Yeah.
So the way prayer works, I think empirically, is people get this sort of certainty. Un poquito más.
Is it going to be popcorn, Alfonso?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you the mic in a second. So I think what actually happens that works when we pray is that especially when it's out loud, people are saying things that buenísimo, like people want to hear. People. You're self-conscious, and you're saying things that you subconsciously want others to hear, or what you aspire to. So it has a social function, right? Now, when you're praying on your own, it's a similar process, but you're speaking to the several people inside your mind, right? Because you think that there is a God listening. So prayer does have an effect, just not the supernatural one of, like you said, provoking, owning a car, or finding a parking spot, or having a surgeon find you.
Which I think we all acknowledge that individual human intelligence is not the superseding or greatest power of the universe. There are levels, even if we go to Bertrand Russell's theory of logical types, there are intelligences and layers of community, political organization, and even at country level, there are events that can only be regarded as miraculous. We've just been through a few years of war with the Jewish nation. The Jewish nation, winning overwhelming odds, taking down countries 75 times the size of the face of Iran. In the realm of sort of algebraic theorems as Spinoza's ethics are. I recommend them to everybody. Incredibly brilliant, incredibly persuasive. Also in medicine, regarding prayer and so forth, I remember asking my pediatrician friend about this. I think it was cardiomyelitis, something that one of the kids in my son's class had. Like, oh, this kid's only going to live a few years. He's got this disorder. And birth defects. This kid had a lot of issues, although he was a very happy kid. And I said, so what's the deal with it? How does the parents deal with this? You know, because even the fact that my friend's kid had this was disturbing to me. He said, well, weirdly, now this was a kind of this idea that the secular Jews and non-secular Jews is a misunderstanding. There are Jews who sometimes proclaim their secularity, but they do many of the Jewish rituals anyway, because they're also part of culture and tradition. You know, everything from food and keeping kosher to resting on Shabbos or fasting on Yom Kippur. Anyway, he was one of those kinds of Jews who went to synagogue just maybe a few times a year. But, you know, a Jew has a Passover Seder like almost every Jew does. And he said the ones that get through it are the Christian. He was up in a non-Jewish area of New York near Woodstock. The families that cope with it best who are believing Christians, because that's the kind of people that were up there.
Are you going to hear your plate?
Can't hear anybody. What did the woman say? Is that the background noise?
There you go.
Okay.
You're playing. Everyone's leaving the room. I
You know the answer.
People are very interested.
I think you know the answer to the question. Everybody likes their plane. So of course I am. So if you want me to wrap it up, I'm happy to do so. So alcohol is another example of a way of addicts putting something that proved to defy science. The idea of stopping the drug addiction, saving people's lives, millions of lives saved that way. So it's interesting to teach at a whole lot of atheists have to constantly reassure themselves. I'm sure there's no God, definitely no God. God and science are two different domains. The domain of the divine is not the domain of the pragmatic and the practical, the physical, and the ritual. So it's really apples and oranges. I think it really oranges, but it's not on purpose.
mine, this Christian friend of mine who I'm hanging out with these days, we're colleagues, we're trying to do some business together. He's like, all the signs are there, everything is, so whatever happens in your life, you interpret to be the fulfilling of a prediction or something.
Well, I think that, let's see, I think about predicting, like, any one of us here could come up with, like, prediction about pretty much just anything, like I could say, like I predict that in 12 days, somebody will eat a sandwich, in California or whatever, like, we can do that, but anybody can make those kind of predictions, but we don't really care about those kinds of predictions. They're not really teaching us anything. They're not telling us like what's right or what's wrong. They're not giving us any new information. Islam is true. This was his sort of reasoning here. And so, like, I realized, like,
And when did that scholar write? I'm just curious. Sorry for the interruption.
well, he didn't actually give me, the source he gave me was the Quran. So I don't know exactly when the particular passages were written. I don't remember, like, what the passages were in the Quran, but he repeated it several times to me, so I remembered it. About the battle and stuff like that. I thought, well, I didn't really fully understand like why I didn't feel compelled like at all by this. Like, first of all, I went to go look up the battle, and it turns out like the commander of the Roman forces was one of the greatest generals that Rome had ever had in the history of Rome. So I'm like, wow, that doesn't make this very surprising. The greatest general won a battle. Greatest Roman general won a Roman battle.
Who was the
Doesn't seem
general?
very surprising. Like Aetius. I don't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's like Aetius. It starts with an A. Ends with like US. It might be Aetius or something. You can look this one up. I'm sure I'm probably misremembering.
Oh yeah, no, I'll look it up when I get home. I'm trying to find my questions.
By the way, I know it's totally off topic, but news hot off the press. CP Sweetie has turned down $5 million to post to Playboy. Sorry to interrupt you. That's pretty damn good evidence for general relativity and against Newtonian mechanics and against Einstein's earlier prediction of 0.74. Like that is a really good example of what a good prediction looks like. And from my point of view, like what makes that kind of prediction so powerful is that it's incredibly risky. You know, like just the prior probability of that prediction of 1.75 arc seconds of that being true, the probability of that being true is very low. You know, so it's a very risky prediction to make. It could easily be wrong by any number of ways. And so if I contrast something like that with a Roman general won a battle in 450, that seems to be like a 50-50 kind of, you know, compelling to me. I don't know. Do you guys understand where I'm going with it?
Sort of. I just like that you're talking about history. I enjoy when you talk about history.
History's really fun. I remember Marcia, you said something earlier that a lot of people say this too. It's a very common thing that people say. Like, you know, if you ask them about the Bible, and you say, you know, what are some reasons that we hold that are reasons that the Bible is true on some level? And a lot of times they come back with, oh, it has a lot of historical facts in it, you know, like their names, their places like Pontius Pilate, Caesar, the Israelites, all these are real people, real places, like real times in history. But we like to go to the historian from the future, like the year before that, and they dig up like
because under those premises, it makes huge sense. Like, it's all about reinforcing love and understanding with each other and connection and self-transcendence, right? So within the linguistic experience of a human, within a human experience, it's very logical, I think. But when you bring in science, it starts to lose. Typically speaking, I think. Sorry, again, the Bluetooth thing. Scientifically speaking, it starts to lose ground. But because of the axioms and the foundations of what have become our understanding of what it means to be spiritual, what it means to connect with others, to strive for something better, and given the assumption that we're a soul and not a body, right? And that's, I think, what something atheists, I don't know.
This isn't my only election strategy. Obviously, playing music all day long is not a great political communication, but it is great relaxation. And I believe voters you can go to Sora or YouTube if you want to check out John Kitover's relaxation videos for voters of the 16th district. So I'm creating clips of these little 2-minute pieces, 1-minute pieces using the Santor. I believe this Santor came out of Esfahan, near Tehran, in the Iran. This comes from the personal collection of the Ali Khamenei. I hope you enjoy these mystical little pieces played by your favorite performer and candidate congressman, John Kitover.
There has never once been a scientific experiment to prove or disprove God. And she asked me, how do I know that she's not what she says she is? And I says, because of that fact. Christians that actually do believe that God is literally real, but I think for the majority of them, that's not the power that religion has. I think that it being not real is part of why it's powerful, because you're saying, even if you're wrong, I'm on your side. There are political groups where they're not following the same goal as you. You're here looking for what's true. They don't care. For them, it's what's the benefit. It's not who's right. It's not what's right. It's who's right. Right. If, for example, that other group, to actually challenge what they believe, will require going against certain groups of people. Will require burning their affiliations. And through. Like, I think that there can still be really good discussions. Like, for example, a question I heard that I really like, and I'd like to hear tackled, is that even if God is not real, when it comes to human history, humans have kind of evolved, co-evolved with religions. Like, religions have been, not all the time, obviously, but for a long time, we've had religions in our societies that keep order. I don't know if you've heard this one before, but I'd like to hear what you think or anyone else thinks that religion is a part of humanity in the sense of it helps people make decisions, even if the decisions aren't themselves very logical. Like, for example, the marriage one is a great example. They'll say, a man or a woman doesn't have to understand why it's important to be monogamous. They only need to fear the consequences of some bogus God punishing them if they're not. So, what do you think about a lot of beneficial things that humans do? Do you think that humans are capable of doing things if they don't have a religion to punish them for doing it? Or you think that the modern person in aggregate, they can absolutely make those decisions? They don't need the hocus pocus anymore. What's your position on that one? Well, my answer is you literally asked 5 different questions in the past 30 seconds. So my position is, if you would be so kind, would you ask the questions again one by one? I'd be more than happy to give you my position. Oh, you can pick your favorite one. I'll pick one if you want me to. I want you to. I can answer one of them. Sure. Well, you know what? Elliot, go ahead, please, by all means. Please, Elliot. I like the last question. You know, do we need to have consequences for our actions? From and the way I interpreted your question was, we need consequences for our actions from a divine authority. That's the way I interpreted your question. And it turns out clearly the answer is no, because that was probably one of the primary things you get from what came out of the Enlightenment thinkers is that reason trumps divine authority. That we can reason to how we should govern ourselves. We can reason to what we should do, what's right and what's wrong, what's moral, what's immoral. We can reason to these things, and that human reason is more important or better suited, perhaps, than divine authority.
Battery is at 100%.
Or something like that. So that answers that. I agree with you. I think it's possible. But what do you think about people in aggregate? You think everyone?
These are the meta Wayfarer 2s. We're now recording.
Falls in terms of population.
Oh, it's called a Santor. Now we are free.
Is that a question for me?
Yes, this is Hans Zimmer. This is the new Hans Zimmer performing for your new Hans Zimmer music. I hope you enjoy the show. Like the live stream, share the live stream to your X account, to your Meta story. We are recording new Hans Zimmer, the new song. The world's famous. Now we are free. Free, no, the free.
Right, wrong. You give them the tools for how to do them, and you give them the evidence, they can figure it out by themselves.
I can't actually, it's difficult.
But that doesn't mean that this will always happen. That doesn't always happen.
This is naturally grown Illinois cannabis.
Certainly modern humans.
Now, smoking is not healthy for you. It's very damaging to the body. And if, you partake, I suggest you play some music. Do something productive with the additive chemical to the bloodstream, to the brain consciousness. Hello?
If you want to talk or just popcorn, just preferably one person at a time. To intercede. No. It's to ask for something yourself, not yourself. Not yourself.
Uncle Steve loves to make assumptions. And you know what they say about guys that like to make assumptions, right?
So basically, yes, you're asking for someone to get.
else's cancer to be healed, prayer has no effect on that.
Right, because when we measure such things, we also have to measure
It is the tattoo, yes.
placebo effect. You know, and that's the
Behold the shining light of Hashem, shining bright upon his people outside of Shemayim.
effect. Because, you know, one group is not getting the thing, they're getting the placebo, right? And so we know that a pill, a sugar pill, is more effective at curing what ails you, statistically speaking, than no pill at all. And that a gel cap is more effective than a sugar pill, and an injection of saline solution is more effective still than a gel cap, right? And then there's this even weirder thing that we have to defeat. There's the nocebo effect, in which people who are given what has otherwise been demonstrated to be legitimate medicine are told that it doesn't work. And as a result of having told them that, its efficacy goes down, right? So there's something going on with regards to mental health and physical health. practice, maybe to a fault of enunciating. I have learned to choose my words very carefully, and sometimes I enunciate which is not favorable to other people. This is because I've been misquoted so many times that I have to choose my words carefully. So when people later on, today, tomorrow, next year, paraphrase what I say, no, I didn't say that, I said this. Bottom line, fine, and I'll say it differently so I won't enunciate. Positive mental attitude helps physical recovery. Documented facts. Yes, he was a proud graduate.
I love you, Steve. I didn't mean to criticize you in any way.
No, I'm teasing you.
Okay. Teasing you, love it.
Okay, you tease away. I'm sorry, sorry, T.
A proud graduate of the Howard Cosell School of Speaking, right? Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, right?
Look at that little monkey go.
Hey now. Didn't have to go there.
For those of you that didn't know, that's what got Howard Cosell canceled back when.
And also the key thing to point out is the prayer for others has no benefit. There's no efficacy to prove that actually.
You know, when I've had a couple of surgeries in the past, no secret. When I went into surgery, I went in with the idea that I have total 100% confidence in my doctor. I'm doing the right thing, and this is the best thing for my health at this time, regardless of if I go into surgery because I have a positive mental attitude, because confidence in my doctor and myself, or because I believe in God, and because I am faithful to God. God is on my side. Either way, it creates a positive mental attitude. That's the way I look at it.
The subject of this universe. It becomes a matter, it becomes something measurable, something quantifiable. I won't imagine a creator of the universe that can be quantifiable and measurable. At least it has to be something outside time space, and we can't even say outside time space. That's how limited we are. So, yeah, for my religious friends, my family, I think it's not really interesting to try to prove your creator or the creator you believe in. That's my true sense on this subject.
Yeah, I said that earlier, that it's not important to them if it's real or not. It's about pledging allegiance to the group and what they believe, and there's other benefits, and they don't really care about if it's real or not.
Just have some kind of placebo effect on the psyche of the human beings. And that may be a greater proof that all the religions were maybe invented by humans to have that psychology.
The Judeo-Christian, well, no, I think just the Christian and Catholic religions don't really make sense internally, since I remember learning that the God has a divine plan. So if he's got a plan, then what's the point of praying if you think if your prayer is going to change the plan? Like at that point, you may as well just go with what the plan is instead of keep trying to ruin things in your favor. So
I have said that many times before also. Good job.
But Steve, the way you say that makes people angry.
I'll have to change up the way I speak.
I think it's the volume. I think that's why the guy with the PTR of the trash bag said he thought you were angry, because the volume is high.
I'm naturally amplified. What can I say?
I don't agree, but that's my guess. I think it's just because you're loud, they think that you're mad.
It's perfectly okay. I believe, and I have a lot of objective evidence for this. I'm the most imitated person on Clubhouse.
Aside from Donald Trump. Oh, you mean other people who haven't?
I'm for the people on Clubhouse. I'm the most imitated person on Clubhouse.
Yeah, Donald Trump's not on Clubhouse. His statement still holds.
It's also an evidence of why states and political entities perpetuate religious institutions. I will double check on that. Religious institutions. Look how useful they are. You can have votes, you can have support, you can have, if you want as a politician, if people believe you are representative of some sort. Even the king can give a picture of the queen, let's say the divinity on that. That's the king of France.
Someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember looking up that there's a positive correlation in birth rate with religiosity of one with atheism, and that bothers me.
Repeat that.
There's a positive correlation with human birth rate and religiosity, whereas there's a negative one with atheism and human birth rate.
Yeah, you mean people that believe in God have more kids? I've heard that claim before, but I haven't seen the actual studies.
Well, it's like contrary evidence. Iran has one of the worst threat rates on Earth, and it's one of the most severe practical issues. So maybe there is a way because the fact that most people don't really think this. I mean, that's just the ultimate. They have the right to strive for financial freedom, I say it like that. But again, that comes at the price of not having or not being able to bear the costs of biological and financial costs of having kids. May be unfair, but that's a fact. Women suffer more in making kids. I put it like that. So yeah, maybe we won't go extinct. I don't think so. But our numbers will dwindle, and I don't think that necessarily a bad thing that we become fewer. But then again, I don't know. Anything can happen. Even communist China has predicted that they will control birth rates by enforcing one-child policy, and it turned out to be a catastrophe. Now, they have way less kids and way less young people than that they should have.
Living in one of the most religious states in the United States, with a church on almost every corner, if not two, I found that most people, when it comes to the birth control thing, the religious ones will hide it, and their church will make sure to hide it, and they're just full of shit. And they go to other countries to do it, or they go to. I'm going to tell you how it is.
Don't forget, in the United States, driving to another state where they're allowed to abort as well if their state doesn't.
Exactly. And they love to trump this beautiful, you know, like vision of how perfect they are, but they're so full of shit. And the higher up you go, the more full of shit they generally are. Drop.
And also, don't forget that in some Asian countries, they practice selective abortions. In other words, they take a sample of the amniotic fluid. They find out if the baby is he or she with the ultrasound. And then, because they want more men in society, they will allow the child to be born if they're a man. If they're a boy, they will be born if they're a girl. Selective abortion. I'm not sure, but it's a documented fact that in Asian countries they practice selective abortions or whatever they're called. I don't mean every most. It goes
Something else you said earlier on the subject of birth rate, and another issue that I thought of is the relationship of liability versus asset when it comes to having kids in the family. So, for example, in a first world country, kids are a house in terms of financial liability because their money have to do so much liability for their education or things like that. If they're exposed to computer to play their games on the console, whatever, kids use their liability in that sense. Whereas in a third world country, children will have liability especially in rural settings because a lot of Europe is still very physical. And so in that sense, there's a kind of mutual disincentive to have kids in first world settings because in third world settings, there is not so you are incentivized to have children. And it doesn't just have to be a male child for labor. I think in some places, like, I don't know if Morocco still practices or Yemen, but they still do this kind of old school sell off the daughter for a dowry. So they can even see having daughters as an asset. As horrible as that sounds, that like, what if the calculation there of benefit for having a kid in your life, what if that is really one of the bigger elements and not really the theism and the atheism? What if it's more to do with the financial liability versus asset?
I remember reading about some kind of economic paper or news media. It was a long time ago, and it explained how there are several things that contribute to the economy of the United States that aren't that there aren't really any statistics for. There aren't you can't go and you can look at the CPI and find like something like the amount of unpaid labor that mothers contribute to the economy by engaging in child rearing. That's the single largest thing that contributes to the economy that isn't covered or explained by economics is mothers engaging in child rearing or just child rearing, period. And most child rearing in the United States is performed primarily by a mother.
Oh, you're right. It's unpaid. So essentially, it's invisible to the economy. Man, what a blind spot.
As a woman, you're expected to not only be fully corporate, fully like take care of the home fully, and take care of any children fully, and that is just bullshit. Bullshit. Nobody should be expected to do so much, and sometimes for multiple families, and with hardly any funding to do so.
It's not that you're expected to, you have to with the price of real estate, etc. We chose it. It was a choice at first. Now it's mandatory. We sort of worked our way into it. You know, the price of things rises to the ability to pay for them.
Actually, no, it doesn't rise to the ability to pay for it. It's the greedy assholes at the very, very top who set the price and corner the market who affect the whole thing.
Yeah,
and
the market is cornered, yeah.
Yeah, when they corner the market and they're all owned by the same people, well, you're going to have corruption and all kinds of terrible shit.
Yeah,
Yeah, we haven't used the Sherman Antitrust Act in a very long time. The Sherman Antitrust Act, the thing that helps break up monopolies. I don't think we've used it since at least the 60s or 70s, if not longer. It was passed, I believe, in 1936.
You're right. I think Google is the next juicy cake to slice up, no?
Even if you break up the monopolies, what they do is just give them away to family members to make it look like it's broken up, but really it's all the same thing. It's just diced up into small bits.
Then you highlighted a shortcoming in the Sherman Antitrust Act, and it should be amended to account for that. At least I think so. I think the law should be used vigorously. Say again? Sorry? Right, I didn't hear the last thing you said. What was it?
It would be lovely to hold account to all the trillionaires and billionaires who mistreat their workers on a regular basis. But we all know that that is rarely done because they have so many lawyers and loopholes that they can do no matter what law has changed. And they're all in cahoots. So good luck.
Sounds like you think it's pretty hopeless.
If you know anything about economy and how people act when they have power, and you've sat in those circles, you sure will have very little.
See, I'm on the exact opposite end. I do local politics, campaigns mostly, and that has shown me the power of change. What enough people who are concerned can do to make their area better. I grant you, changing law on the federal level takes a lot of time and a lot of money, and it's not one of those things that happens overnight. I'm more glass half full than glass half empty.
Have you ever been homeless and expected to figure out how to navigate in a system that does not reward you for merit, but class?
No, ma'am. I have never been in a place where...
Well, I would suggest that you do that because then you might understand the people you're trying to...
I don't know about being homeless, but definitely go, investigate and interview them.
I already do that. Got at least 5 homeless friends that I check on. So I'm aware of the fact that people can't afford homes. I have just been blessed and lucky enough to never live in that situation.
I'm glad that you're the one representing all of us, including those who are downtrodden, because certainly somebody who doesn't have any kind of inkling of what it's like to navigate that certainly is the person to be in charge of it all. Huh?
Yeah, I wasn't suggesting I was in charge. I was just saying we had 2 different ways of looking at the issue. You seem to look at the issue as a glass half empty. I look at the issue as a glass half full. I mean, that's not a.
You're not really
That's just
saying
different in-
anything other than
That's
I'm being negative and you're being positive. That's not like saying, hey, I might
no, I don't
investigate on what actually is going on in my community and be a part of that part rather than just being on my high horse and saying that I know everything and I've never lived the experience. And when somebody tells you who has lived the experience that you might want to check into it, that you just tell them to not be negative, well, go fuck yourself. How about that?
Yeah, hold on. I've gotta interject. Aurora, you're a total sweetheart. I love you in more than a clubhouse way, but telling a mod to go fuck himself is not appropriate for this space. So that's just a warning. Again, I love you, but let's try and not do that thing.
My
I have
apologies.
two questions. I at least two questions. So there is a long history of very capitalist, free open market countries, free elections, slipping into tyrannical rule. The primary functions of this were the where money flows upwards and centralizes. So breaking up monopolies is more of like, not so much stick it to the rich man merely because they're rich, but it's more like, hey, I like my country, I want it to stay around for a while, sort of thing,
Yeah, that was my point, right? Like I don't know. My head frame is like, what's the problem? How can we solve it? What can we do to make things better? Right? I think things can still be changed. I guess
I hope so.
That's my main point. I have a view that we can still change the things. I know the big change takes a long time and a lot of money, but that's not a modern thing. The founders designed our system to be that slow.
That's right.
It's slower than it should be, but it's meant to be a slow system so everybody can deliberate. Right? As a constitutional history professor of mine said, you want a fast government, get a dictator.
Yeah. That's often. Yeah, I think I cited this just a little while ago. Something like 50% of all democratic countries in the last 100 years, I could be wrong, it might even be 20 years, have slipped into tyranny. And there's no exceptionalism to any country whatsoever. So it's fully possible up here in my country, Canada, or in the United States, for that to happen. Now, tyranny will look very different country to country. Some places more extreme than others, right? But there's no guarantee. Yeah.
I have a possible suggestion for change. Maybe you disagree. Maybe there's a bad side effect of this, but getting rid of lobbying. Ever since I heard that companies and corporations can do lobbying, I found a kind of circular, almost recursive loophole where the power of decisions can just keep cycling between a few small groups, and they can just run away with what's beneficial to them, not really giving a rat's behind about what happens to everybody else. And I understand why Aurora was really mad, because there are a lot of people that get left out of the loop. Like George Carlin said, it's a big club and you're just not in it.
Yeah, I'm going to suspect. I don't think you meant what you really said, because what you said when you want to get rid of lobbying means that you don't want anybody talking to any government official. Just basically cut off all communication for your opinions, thoughts on an issue. What I suspect you meant is that you have deep concerns, as do I, about how much money is included in lobbying and whether or not that money should be capped out by individuals. It should have more legislation regarding corporate financial lobbying, and we need to get more we need to get the financial and more regulated. I really don't think you meant that all lobbying should just stop altogether.
There's also
right,
another piece.
There's a loophole I see already, and the loophole is
in order to do that. In order to deal with the financial piece of this, we simply need stricter financial laws on who can donate and where. And again, I think super PACs are a great example of campaign finance going awry.
Thank you, Marshall.
Right.
Thank you, Marshall.
All right, thank you for the opportunity to speak up here, but I got some things to do. So everybody have a good day.
It's been a pleasure. Hope to see you back soon.
Yep. Hopefully nothing bad happens to anybody, but you know, who knows? See ya.
Got it. Nothing bad's happening to me.
Yeah, I agree with what Marshall said. The lobby is a process of democracy, but what you can do is to strip the government the power to interfere in the economy. If they don't have the power, then nobody's going to lobby. Not going to lobby them.
You encouraging that?
Encouraging what?
Stripping the government.
Yes, stripping.
Look, let's get our terms correct, because I don't understand. Please tell me what you mean by stripping the government.
Well, stripping the power off of much of.
Okay, fair enough. What do you mean? What do you mean by stripping the power from the government?
Yeah. So let's say their power to interfere in the economy, say setting the industrial policies and all of that, say interfere in how the economy should be run.
Okay,
I'd say subsidizing industry, giving the tax exemptions for certain people, but not for other people.
Okay, so again, this may be me, but it frustrates me when people say a whole bunch of different things and then I have to try and go back or whatever. So let's talk about one thing at a time. The last thing you said was subsidies. So you don't think the government should subsidize anything? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay. What about welfare?
No. Nothing.
Okay. Nothing. What about food stamps?
No. Nothing.
Nothing. Okay. You're in favor of the government subsidizing nothing. All right.
Nobody. Nothing.
I completely understand. I also completely disagree with you, because I think that is part of government's responsibility to help out the citizens when in need. I absolutely think there has to be many more checks and balances and accountability for the subsidies and monies that are spent, but I'm absolutely in favor of reasonable subsidies. Okay, what else do you mean by stripping the government's power?
Yeah, so much of the regulation in the industry.
Regulation.
Yes.
Are you saying that the government should not regulate anything?
Well, in the regulation, when we say regulation, is mostly about the.
Are you saying the government should not be able to regulate some things, but be allowed to regulate other things?
When I use the word regulation, I mean the industrial policy. So let me just put it in I'll tell you the details, right? So instead of
okay, so it's okay. You just want me to let you speak for a few minutes and then whatever. You don't want to deal with it one point at a time, right?
Right. Yeah.
Knock yourself. No, have a good time. Knock yourself.
Cool. Thanks. So basically, what government should do, just only two things. One is the protection of private property rights, and then two, uphold of sanctity of contract. And in the event that there are cases, corner cases, edge cases, corner cases, that the private property rights cannot be clearly demarcated, then only then the government steps in to manage that. That would be the only corner cases. So in the realm of protecting private property rights, we need the military to protect the whole country, and therefore protecting the private property rights of Americans, and then against any foreign enemies. And then domestically, internally, we need justice department, just judicial system to protect individuals against robberies and violence and all that. So we need judicial system, police and all that. And then, of course, the judicial system upholds the sanctity of the contract that people have with each other. And that's all.
Hanson, you communist?
No, I'm the diametric opposite of communist. You are a communist. You're
Okay, hold on. Hello, Hanson. You stated your point very clearly. Matthew, rather than calling him a communist, why don't you address one of the issues that he raised and argue against that? I think that would be more beneficial.
All right. So, with this one thing, like zero regulations, right? I don't know if I heard you right, but
you did. Yeah, the answer is you didn't hear him right because he just talked about what he felt should be regulated.
Okay. I assume, Hanson, that you'd want other things regulated as well, because in your country, I'm going to make like a health food brand and make trillions of dollars. Nobody's going to regulate me. I'm going to start compounding protein powder out of my backyard with dirty hands. And
what? Can you speak clearly? What are you saying?
I think he was speaking clearly. For example, although he didn't say that, if I may, I'll help you out. He didn't say it, but the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, regulating food, regulating drugs, that was not included in the list that you talked about regulating. So basically, you're against us, the government regulating food and drugs, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Well,
awesome.
Go ahead, Matthew. I was trying to help you out. Go.
Yeah, I just want to see if Uncle Steve or anybody else wants to move to Hanson's country. We can sell crap and just make a whole lot of money because nobody's going to regulate us.
Well, no, I think we need an FDA, no question.
Yeah, I think so too.
No, because that's a non-sequitur. Just because you make something doesn't mean that you'll make tons of money. You can lose money. It's just because you set up.
What the hell does that have to do with the FDA? I want to know. Hello, Hanson. I want to know that when I go into a market and I buy a product, I don't have to worry about whether or not there's going to be poison in it.
That's crazy, Steve.
I want to know that when I go to a gas station and fill my gas tank up with gas, it's not going to explode as I'm driving home.
Uncle Steve.
Yeah. I want to know that when I go into a building, it's not going to collapse on me. Okay?
Whoa. In that country.
I also, and most importantly, I want to know that when my kids and grandchildren, and more importantly me, are walking down the sidewalk, that someone's not going to come in with an AK-47 and shoot up the whole fucking place.
No gun regulations.
Okay, so yeah, you're mixing up all things.
I'm not mixing up anything, yes. Sir. Hold on, Hanson. Hanson, yeah, I will in a moment.
Hanson, you communist?
Yeah, go on. No name calling. We don't know. Guys, and this is why I don't want the name calling. The name calling will not be permitted. You guys will go to the fucking goo. I kid you not. No name calling. Address the issues. Forget about the name. Now let's just review, and then Hanson, I'll give you a chance to explain. I specifically asked you if you were against all regulation. You said no. I said, fine. Tell me what you're okay with regulation. You wrapped off a couple of things, and everything that I just mentioned is not what you listed that you were in favor of regulating. So now you can go ahead, move your goalposts, and you can amend what you said. Go ahead.
Yeah, everything you said was wrong. Including the goalposts. I never removed any goalpost. And so what you said about the he's putting up an AK-47 and shooting up everybody. That's already included in the protecting private property rights. You have police and judicial systems to prevent exactly that. Okay, so that your allegation was wrong. And then as for the prior allegation that poison in the food and all that, the regulation doesn't prevent that. The information prevents that. And when you have food poison in the food or whatever, doesn't have to be intentional or just by happenstance, then the information, the dissemination of information, when you have a non-regulated market, the information is king. Information is what people will need, and that will be transmitted with most efficiency in the market. And then whether you have any poison in your food, because of they have the incentive to disseminate people will buy the information about the quality of food or what have you, that will be provided most efficiently in the market. But on the other hand, if you rely on government, the information transmission speed would be slowed. And also, when you have the FDA, there's two things in the market. Every product has two sides. One is you may have some they pose some negative side for the from the product, but the other side is it may solve problems that that exist in the market. Say, take the example for medicine. If you prevent the advent of medicine onto the market, you have illness, sickness that would have been cured had the drug coming onto the market. But there's also, of course, you have the negative side of the drug. Could be side effects or even the adverse effect they should be discovered. But the thing is, the food FDA in its because it's a bureaucratic agency, it has incentive to prevent the food.
I have to interrupt you. I'm sorry. All government is bureaucratic.
Yes. So they are incentivized because when you have a bias in incentivity, when they do allow a drug coming onto the market, if it is good, they don't get the bonus or blame for it. But if there is any side effect, even if it benefits one group of people, but not the other, but they'll get blamed for the side effect that harms.
All right, I think we got your point, Matthew. Did you want to respond?
Hold on.
No. You hold on. Go on mute. Please go on mute. Please.
I'm not done yet.
Please go on mute. I've asked you twice now. Please. I've asked you politely. Go on mute.
Yeah, that's one more point to make.
All right. So obviously you can't follow simple directions. You got chance one to talk for a long time about what you wanted to say. Matthew came in. I gave you another chance. We got your point. If you want to talk again, you can. You'll have plenty of time to speak. I guarantee it. But I have to control this somehow. So make some notes. And then, Matthew, if you want to respond, just don't call them names, but respond to all the issues. Take a few.
Well, one thing that kind of comes to mind is the Tylenol murders. The FDA wasn't in there to stop those initial murders happening right away. But my concern is, Tylenol, massive company. They really did try to do their best to cover everything up. But the FDA and political and local government, as well as the media, really pushed for these, the capsule, the containers to be made better. Okay, and so it's a good thing, to have the government come in, check your lab, make sure everything's fine, everything's good, especially if you're dealing with like massive products like that. One problem that I have with Hansen's, if there's no regulation, no FDA, is these very large companies can use leverage within the media and the amount of money that they have just to cover themselves up and none the wiser, right? So I don't know. I understand. I do think the government's super inefficient. And Hansen, I know you're not a communist. You're just easy to troll. I'm just fucking joking around. All right.
All right. So, if anybody, Elliot, please go ahead. I'm going to bring Hansen up. Hansen, please wait till it's appropriate. I'll bring him up if he's still here, but go ahead, you guys.
Okay. My point's more about against the idea of the government not intervening, no subsidies whatsoever. This kind of extreme take on things, or what I think is extreme, at least. We got, and where's Marshall? I think Marshall would really appreciate this. The founders repeatedly over and over and over and in different ways and in different conversations with each other said and reinforced repeatedly that a republic can't survive. It can't survive if large numbers of citizens are economically dependent or structurally excluded. It can't survive if that somebody 15 minutes ago said that 50% of all democratic governments in the past 50 years or whatever have folded, something like that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
probably true. But the reason why this is important, they argue, is because dependence destroys independence, and independence is necessary for liberty. Liberty requires independence, and independence in turn requires material security, and that's why the government should intervene when citizens need help. They should offer subsidies. They should provide food stamps and stuff like this. The founders were explicit about specifically the survival of the republic.
Yeah, I don't know where you got the independence requires subsidies. Subsidies imposes
the Federalist Papers, the letters between Adams and Jefferson. They're there.
What did they say about subsidies? Where do they say about subsidies? You're just twisting it's the most grotesque distortion of logic. Independence requires you to be independent, not be sucking on other people's teeth.
I don't think it defies logic to help people when they need help on a temporary basis. I don't know why that defies logic. I know that in my wheelhouse, when people are injured, when people are disabled, that if you don't help them, that their injury and their disability can linger and last longer and get worse. And then what inevitably happens is they get used to a lifestyle of not working, where it becomes more difficult for them to be productive later. On the other hand, if you help them right at the start and let them know that we are doing our best to help you get back on your feet so you can be a productive member of society again, that they end up being productive quicker. So I don't think it defies all logic. I completely disagree with you.
No, this is a defying logic because it doesn't say the independence doesn't mean the subsidy. Okay, so the and relying the kind of the just completely relying on other people, the helping That doesn't include.
I'm not advocating lifetime welfare. I'm talking about temporary assistance.
You don't need temporary. Well, yes.
Well, look. No. You can't, because when I speak, you listen. It's that simple. It's my fucking room. I'll run it the way I want. If you don't like it, leave quietly.
Great, fantastic.
Good, fantastic. You don't like it, leave quietly. That's what the button is there for. When I talk, you listen. It's that simple. Okay, so, you know what? I blew my cool. My point was made. I don't need to restate.
Yeah, so, and it doesn't exclude hope. Okay, the free market capitalism is the best system to help, but it's just you need to in exchange for a hope, you help others, and voluntarily. That's the point. You don't force people to help. You voluntarily help other people. That's the point.
Well, yeah, sure, but I mean, like you are arguing against the founders of the country right now. Like you're contradicting what they're saying. They're saying, what I explained earlier was that independence requires material security. Okay? Independence requires material security, and liberty requires independence. And a republic requires liberty. Okay, you can see how these are necessarily linked.
No, because you don't. So
you're right to say
logic.
You're right to say that. Well, the founders didn't talk anything about subsidies. You're right about that. It's my inference from what they said to subsidies.
Words in founders' mouth. Okay, and then it's not logically. It's a non sequitur. Your whole thing, the logic of what you said was completely false. The material security, yes, material security comes from independence. When you have a free trade, the material security will flower from that. Will comes as a consequence of independence and freedom to trade. That's what founders talking about.
Do you identify as a libertarian, Hanson?
Yes.
I had a feeling, because everything that Hanson described is, well, I'll coin it pure libertarianism. It's probably the furthest, it's probably the most purest form of libertarianism there is before you get to anarchy, which is no government at all.
You got it. The smallest government there should be.
JCC, you there, bruh? Are you there, or IRL? He's IRL.
No, I'm here. I'm in the middle of doing stuff. What's up? I'm listening.
Did you hear me blow my cool?
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah, that was good.
I've calmed down since then. It doesn't take me that long. Oh, man. If you're in the audience and want to come up, it's a popcorn-style room. Just one speaker at a time. Be respectful. Argue the issues. Don't call people names. I got enough names called at me
Yeah, what was this room? What happened last night? What room was that in?
I just opened up a popcorn room. It lasted for a couple of hours. This one person came in and accused me of being a liar, accused me of worshiping the devil. Yeah, I'm a devil worshiper and a liar. You know. Oh well, that's okay. I thought it was kind of comical myself.
Because you're an atheist?
No, because they saw me in they were with me in the Church of Satan room. And,
because you went there.
Yeah, and I said, I haven't been in that room. And they said, I said, did I speak? No, I just saw you on stage.
Guilt by association.
I said, well, yeah, I didn't know it was the Church of Satan room. And I go, I don't worship the devil. She goes, well, I'm gonna go back and tell them that you're an atheist. I said, don't stop there. Go into every room and tell them that Uncle Steve is an atheist. They go, and she goes, well, why do you want me to do that? I said, because I'm a numbers whore.
Right. Talk about me, baby.
That's right. Talk about me all day and twice on Sundays.
The devil is a lie.
The devil is in the details. Ho Chi, see, I pronounced it right. I got it right.
Thank you.
What do you mean the devil is a lie, Ho Chi?
The devil is a lie. The devil is deception.
Alive or a lie?
A lie.
Oh, a lie. Deception. So when people lie, they're speaking the devil? Is that what you're saying?
They're doing the devil's work.
Doing the devil's work? Do you have to do the devil's work to lie?
Are you doing the devil's work right now?
No.
It sounds like it. I am what I commonly refer to as making the rich richer.
Does the devil need to exist for people to lie, Ho Chi?
I don't know. That's a weird question. I'm not going to lie to you.
Why is that a weird question? If you say people who lie are doing the devil's work, that sounds like you're entailing the devil exists, right?
Yeah, the devil exists.
So, does the devil need to exist for people to lie?
No, I'm pretty sure Donald Trump doesn't need to exist for people to lie, right?
Look, guys, y'all can talk about anything y'all want. Please don't talk about Donald Trump that way.
Okay, logical question. Which way should we talk about him?
Y'all should. First of all, Donald Trump doesn't lie.
Oh my God!
he stretches the truth, and he exaggerates. But
before we go any further, did you and I have this discussion before or no?
I don't think so.
Okay, then no. Let me get this one thing out, and then I'll shut up. Donald Trump repeated multiple times that he was going to cut prescription drugs by 1,500%. Now, either he doesn't know fifth grade math or is completely lying. Because if you cut something 100%, you make it free. You can't discount anything more than 100%, which makes it free. And he repeated that multiple times. So there's one documented lie.
Another one, like we don't even have to. We don't even have to look very far. We don't have to go very far to find like a fucking whopper from Trump too. I think it was it today or yesterday? He said, referring to the Epstein files, he says that, yeah, hey, look, the Epstein files absolve me of any kind of wrongdoing. They absolve me. You know, he says I'm vindicated by the Epstein file, by the release of at least the ones that have come out recently. You think he's telling the truth there? You can go to justice.gov/Epstein, and you can look. You can just type in Donald Trump, and what will come back are thousands thousands of entries just to have Donald Trump's fucking name in them. Those are just the ones that are not redacted. Okay. Do you think he's telling the truth there when he says that the Epstein files have absolved him?
That doesn't mean that he was guilty of any wrongdoing just because his name comes up in the files. That doesn't mean that, because he was hanging out in the same circles as a lot of people that were going to the island. I mean, he's a billionaire. It was nothing but billionaires that would go to these.
But that wasn't the question.
No. Okay. Yeah. Like his claim is that if the files absolve him, okay, not that he didn't commit any wrongdoing, it's that the files specifically absolve him. Do you think that is what the files show?
The files absolve him most likely because although his name comes up a bunch of times in the files, it's not showing that he was participating in any.
Oh no! You didn't understand. It implicates him by circumstance. So it doesn't absolve him. It implicates him, right?
Implicates him how?
His name is mentioned hundreds of times.
It documents a ongoing relationship with Epstein from 1999 to 2000.
Is that against the law for him to have a relationship with Epstein?
An ongoing relationship is an implication, not an absolution.
Right. So it might imply that Donald Trump was
imply. Right. Yeah.
So wait, if it implies that Donald Trump, but implies what, like, specifically? Just because it has his name, like, what does it?
It implies him.
What does it imply, though?
Yeah, that he was. That's the whole thing, right? It implies that he was working and associating with a criminal.
Yes, it clearly does not absolve him. That means it clears him of all wrongdoing.
It does the opposite.
Yes, it absolve means it proves he did not do anything wrong, and it does not do that.
Okay, so if he did anything wrong, what did he do with regards to Epstein? What is it that he did that's wrong?
Well, I can tell you what's claimed, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, but
claimed.
Wait, hang on. Before you, hang on, stop. Before you move on, Hochi, do you understand that the releasing of the files does not absolve him?
It does if it doesn't show that he did anything.
Stop! Oh my God, Hochi doesn't get it right. It implicates,
but it doesn't show that he did anything wrong.
But it does.
Hang on. Stop talking about wrong or right. Right. The point is, this guy said, if these files are released, they absolve me. Right. They do not absolve him. They implicate him.
Right.
Wait, you're acting like that. You're acting as if just because his name comes up in the
that
files
demonstrates that he was involved.
It's
implication.
Right.
All we're doing is
Hochi needs to learn vocabulary. Hochi, look up the word absolve and look up the word implication. Then come back.
Is that there was no association between him and Epstein between 1999 and 2000. That would be absolution. Excuse me, that is correct.
That's incorrect.
What absolution would mean.
They could have had a relationship.
You're interrupting me in mid-sentence. That is exactly what absolution would mean. It would say that he cannot have been guilty of this. Instead, what it does is it implicates him through a ongoing relationship with Epstein from 1999 to 2000.
And T, we don't even have to go to step 2. I think we should stick on step 1. And that is Hochi. When absolve means essentially proven innocent, that the documents prove that he did nothing wrong. The documents do not prove that he did nothing wrong. Now, we're not saying that he did do something wrong. We're simply saying that the statement that they will absolve him is not true. It's a lie because they do not prove that he did nothing wrong. Do you understand that?
I understand, but the only way...
Okay, so hold on. So since you understand that, do you agree with us, yes or no, that the documents do not absolve him. Do you agree?
No. And the reason
Okay,
why,
well then you
listen,
you don't understand. I'm giving it my best shot, T. T, go
the
ahead.
reason why.
Okay, so
The reason why. Wait, can I talk? Can I talk, please? Can I just?
No,
you guys
you
just
didn't understand what I said.
Wow.
Just because I disagree doesn't mean I don't
No, you
understand
didn't
what you
understand
said.
what I said.
Oh,
You
this
totally
is
don't
impossible.
understand, Hochi. You contradiction yourself.
Let's try this another way. What does it mean when I say I'm absolved of a crime? What does that mean?
That there's no implications that you did it.
Right. That there's no implications that I did it. And then what do the Epstein files do with Trump? Do they implicate him with Epstein regarding an ongoing relationship between 1999 and 2000?
Is it illegal to have a relationship?
I don't know if it's legal.
That's not
Hochi,
what I
you're
asked.
missing. No, Hochi,
Not
Hochi.
what I asked.
It's whether or not he was involved with Epstein or not. The files demonstrate. Hang on. The files demonstrate he was involved. Do you agree or disagree?
Involved with what?
Epstein.
Good golly.
Epstein.
Guys,
no
I don't
patience
think
for
I don't think he's gonna get it. You can keep trying, but I
Idiot.
don't think he's
I'm gonna
gonna
call him a fucking name. He's an idiot. Purple ball.
Ooh, name calling. That doesn't help our cause, but I
I
understand.
don't care.
I know you don't. He's not going to get it. And there's only so many times that I can bang my head against a wall where I just throw up my hands and say, there's nothing that I can say that's going to convince him otherwise. I've done my best.
Here, let me be more explicit about my claim, Ochi, that the files don't, rather than absolve Trump, they implicate him, as T and James and others have said. Okay, I'm going to read one excerpt. I'm going to read just one excerpt from these newly released files, and you tell me whether they absolve Trump or implicate Trump. Okay, I'm quoting now here. Complainant followed up after a call with NYPD officer regarding her previous tip, reporting that she was forced to perform sex acts when she was 13 years old and pregnant in 1984.
I read that 2 hours ago, just FYI. We discussed that 2 hours ago, but you can go ahead and
Okay, but this is for Hochi's benefit.
Gotcha. Go ahead.
I'm sure he's
All right,
already
Hochi,
read
continuing
that.
on. I'm sure he hasn't, actually. Complainant also reported there were high-profile individuals involved in her sex trafficking and the murder and disposal of her newborn daughter. Complainant reported Donald Trump participated regularly in paying money to force her to perform sex acts with him, and alleged Donald Trump was present when her uncle murdered her newborn child. Now, the question here is not whether this is true. The question is do the files like this absolve or implicate Trump in
I don't know who that lady is, but I don't know what that's about. Look, let me just talk.
No, you should just say they implicate, right?
No.
And be honest.
No.
Yeah,
So
you should.
it doesn't. So the thing is, right? If this lady is saying that Donald Trump was, this lady needs to
implicate Trump by name. Hochi, did you guys?
Hochi, let me try it this way. Something we haven't said. Hochi, implicate does not mean proof. Implicate does not mean guilty.
I'm not saying that that's what it means. I'm just saying that he's absolved if they haven't proven that he did anything wrong with the file.
No, he's implicated. No, he's implicated, right? By virtue of the fact that he is mentioned in those files are implicating him, not Epstein. In order to absolve him, they would need to say the opposite. They would need to say Donald Trump was not involved. Then they would absolve him.
Or take it all the way to the trial and found not guilty, which, yeah.
If he did
Implicate does not mean charged. Implicate does not mean guilty. Yeah. Implicate does not. Excuse me, Hochi. I'm not done. Implicate does not mean that he's actually done any of it.
So you agree? So you agree that he has? You agree that he hasn't been?
Implicate simply means that the suggestion has been made. That's all. That's all it means.
Basically, it means nothing. It just means nothing.
No, it means no. I told you what it means. It means accused. How about this? It means accused, Ochi. Ochi, it means accused. He's accused.
What's more important to you guys? Whether or not he did it, or if he's accused?
No, that wasn't the question, Ochi.
I'm not answering your question. I'm asking you a question.
I noticed that. But the question is he implicated or is he absolved by the Epstein files? The correct answer to the question is he is implicated by the Epstein files. Does that mean that he is made guilty by the Epstein files? No. Nope. Nobody. I'm sorry, I'm not done yet. Nobody has suggested that, Hochi. Nobody has gone as far as to say he did it. Well, all that we said is he said he would be absolved by them, and that was a lie because they don't absolve him; they implicate him.
Well, there are people who say he's done it. There was a 13-year-old girl who said that he tied her to a bed, raped her, and beat her.
And we talked about that 2 hours ago, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but that's an implication. He's been implicated by her because she said he did it.
Yeah, John, we agree. But the problem at hand is that Hochi is contradicting himself. On one side, he does agree that these files do not abolish him, but then on the other side, he doesn't accept that it implicates him, right? So he thinks he's abolished because the files implicate him. It's kind of
my thing is my question though is like what are you guys actually concerned about? What are you exactly right? Every single time I talk, they do this every single time.
You just keep squirming and dodging and squirming and dodging.
I'll tell you what, everybody, hello, everybody, including me, we're going to go on mute. We're going to let him talk. We're going to let him get it all out.
And I'm not even trying to say a lot. I just have a question. And I guarantee you that I'm not going to get an answer to this. I know that I'm not going to get an answer to this. But what's more important to you guys? Whether he did it or that there's implications that he had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. Please just answer.
Okay.
Whether he did it.
Whether
Whether he did it, right?
No.
Next question.
No, you got to ask me a
You
question.
guaranteed us that you weren't going to get an answer to that question.
Yeah, you guaranteed
That's
you
pretty
weren't going to
weird.
get an answer. Now you're not wanting the answer? What the fuck's going on?
I took the
Let me give you an account.
Hochi, shut the fuck up.
You see what I mean?
Yeah,
You see
so
how you guys are?
here's what happens.
Here's what happens. Answer. Shut up.
I already got it.
Here's the sequence.
I already got it.
Here is the sequence. No. Here is the sequence of events, right? Hochi, relax.
If it's more important for
Hochi, no.
You don't get to
Just
talk over
stop.
the answer. Stop, Hochi.
Hochi, you initially said, Hochi, I'm just going to keep over talking you until I get my point out, okay? Because we let you speak, all right? We all know Steve let you speak, okay, to ask your question, right? I'm going to say that the whole reason I'm going to go ahead whether you like it or not. The whole reason we're discussing this is because you said that Donald Trump does not tell lies, okay? You said something like Donald Trump does not tell lies.
Are you fucking kidding me?
And I said that we don't have to go very far to find like very easy, clear examples of Donald Trump lying through his fucking teeth.
And Elliot, that was after I gave the 1,500% discount on drugs. Please continue.
And I gave a very explicit example of a tweet that Trump put out where he's claimed, this was today or yesterday, that the Epstein files absolved Trump of any wrongdoing. Okay, and then I went into further detail, and I even gave an explicit excerpt from the files that show that not only did they not absolve Trump, they implicate Trump. Okay, which means that this is clear evidence that Trump was lying. So can you at least agree on the initial discussion? Do you agree that he was lying in that case?
No. And I'll tell you why I disagree, right? For him to say, okay, the files will absolve, you're not on, what that means is that the files are not going to prove that he did anything wrong.
No, that's not what it means.
It doesn't mean that there won't be any implications because anybody can accuse anybody of anything.
That's not what absolve means.
Yes, it does.
No, Hochi, hold on a second.
So what does absolve mean?
Hochi, calm down.
You want the definition from Google? I'm asking a simple question.
Hochi, calm down.
I'm very calm.
Hello?
Hochi,
I'm just asking.
do you want me
to
for a
read?
second, Hochi.
Do you want me to read the definition of a
Oh, so, right. I think you should probably align yourself with
That's a good idea. You should read the definition of
Guys, you could just stop for a second. I've explained this to you.
I'm listening.
Oh, you're not muted. What's going on here?
MMT before you begin JCC, you're going to be around for a while. Tell me, I've got to go do some shit. You're the mod right now. Run the room the way you think is most appropriate. And just if you want up anybody else, give them my competence. Let me realize mod. I want the room shut down if it only one last mod leaves as it is. Take care, everybody.
Suggest that somebody might have done something. Does that mean that they did? I'm not done yet. Coachy. I don't know why you're unmuting. It means to suggest that they might have done something. To absolve is the opposite of it is to point is implication or absolution, and he lied about absolution. Now, if you're done saying stupid shit, we have provided you with a counterexample to your idiotic claim that Trump doesn't lie. Naturally, he ran away with his property.
There's something in the chat. I don't think that was an excuse to run away. The charges against the individual was dismissed or acquitted, trial overturned, or even if they were granted immunity and the legal liability was removed. Now, you have to understand that